Hello, Playdate. This is Don.
This is Nick.
This is Ryan.
This week we are covering Playdate news.
Recent indie releases.
And Skilly Doot scatting our way to the indie. No, not the indie. The game, the pick of the week, the that we do at the end of the show.
Indeed. Thank you for listening. Let's get started.
Let's get started.
Right.
Indeed, Donathan. I heard there was some commotion over something you said last time.
Not a commotion, just a quick correction. I think I mentioned that the game Hidden, which was on my top 10, was free, and I guess it could be free, but it is actually pay what you want. So there'll be a link in the show notes. It is a game by Pixel Ghost, so it's pay what you want. It could be $1,000 or it could be $0. You get to choose.
Yeah, there's a bit of a brouhaha over this. But
No.
Anyway, I'm glad we've corrected that.
Yes.
So there's no more ruckus.
As long as you play it.
Yes. Cease the bedlam. Don has repented. Thank you, Don.
Yes.
Which brings us to our boop news and notes. Starting out with Panic announcing that they're no longer going to be posting on Twitter. I figured this out because I went there for my each episode news and notes and saw that they are no longer going to be there. Looks like they're going to be on weird stuff like Mastodon and Blue Sky, not the commons like Instagram and FaceSpace. So you got to work a little bit, I guess, to get the Panic news now. But they're out there, they're doing their thing, and they said that they may repost their buddies on the Twitter every once in a while, but evidently they're sort of signing off. So, yet another one bites the dust over on elon.com, which brings us to our next news and note, which is happier news. Uncranked number 2 is available for pre-order. If you are not aware, Uncranked is the unofficial Playdate magazine. It's spearheaded by creator extraordinaire Zanya Lasagna, and this particular batch number 1 of Cranked number 2 only has 35 available. There's some available right now, but if number 1 was any indication as to what you should do, you should probably go pick that thing up with a quickness. We will have a link to Uncranked number 2's pre-order in the show notes for today's episode. So head on over there. Just don't do it before I get one. So you guys, Nick, I saw you had a shiny new Uncranked number 1. Good job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to know all my berating helped.
Yeah. I think I had it last episode as well.
So a likely story. I'm glad you have it, though. Good job, Nick.
Yes.
I'm proud of you. It's a good episode, a good issue, right? I mean, like, well put together, lots of quality information, full color throughout, 40 some odd pages, right? 48 pages. Goodness. Oversized issue. This is solid. I was impressed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very nice.
Very cool.
Also available digitally. Or yes, I assume it will be. The first one is available digitally.
Yepers. And if I'm remembering correctly, sometimes my mind is mushy. Like it was last episode, I should have chimed in the corrections too. Last episode, I said that Post Hero was the only thing that came out from Scenic Software last year. And boy, was I wrong. But maybe you corrected me on episode. Maybe that's why it's not in the corrections. But I felt real bad after that. I felt like a real silly goose. So sorry, Mr. Route. I'll try to be better next time. In the meantime, I think Nick has a news and note for us about something called Mode 7 Library. Nick, what in the corn is this?
Okay. Are you all familiar with Mode 7?
Of course.
I'm not.
Oh.
Well, Don is. So, Ryan, let me give you a quick rundown. It's a rotation and scaling effect that the Super Nintendo was famous for. So many games on the Super Nintendo used this effect, which was built into the hardware to allow quick rotation and scaling of sprites, which is not something that ordinarily Super Nintendo would be good at. But it had this hardware method that made it super quick. So games like F-Zero used it for the terrain primarily to allow you to quickly rotate this mega texture around and have this view of the racetrack that allowed it to scale up to screen size, bigger than screen size, so that it can use this single texture to rotate around as you raced. That was really quick, a quick way to do it. Anyway, the Playdate has its very own Mode 7 library now. It's open sourced. It's by the P Racing developer, RP Dev, and anybody can hop in and download it. There are bindings for Lua or C. So if you choose to utilize this Mode 7 library, which has an effect that's very similar to the Super Nintendo library, you can hop in and download that. Let me double check what the license is on this real quick. It's MIT licensed. It's MIT licensed, so it's available for anybody to use, ideally with attribution, if I recall my license terms correctly. But you can pretty much use it in anything commercial or open source.
That sounds so smart and cool. Man, what a neat effect to be able to implement way back when and also right now. That's really neat. Cool. Thank you for explaining that. I had no idea what that was, Nick.
Without dedicated hardware, it's pretty cool to have this available in software on something like the Playdate, which ordinarily one would imagine would be very CPU bound on this kind of thing. So it's a way to fake your way into 3D.
So the real question is, when are you going to start developing that spinning game for the Playdate, Nick? I have the perfect title. I have the perfect title. It's going to be Nick Baldridge takes a picture. Woo! Spinning all around.
Now, Ryan, I don't know if other people have seen my fantastic photography skills, but yes, they mostly
really
involve holding the shutter down and then flinging my phone back and forth in a very low light environment, so it looks terrible.
I think that's going to be a big hit when you develop it.
Thank you.
This sounds like the perfect thing for it. Mode 7 library
for it. Yeah. Rotation and scaling. This will not make terrible Nick photos, though.
And this is certainly not making for terrible podcasting. So
no.
Why don't we
edit like most of this out? I fell asleep 20 minutes ago.
Bitty boop boop in the inventory for this week. Don, save us, please.
We're there already?
I think so.
There.
We are. Jeez. Okay. From Ian Harrower Games. Time flies like an arrow.
Hold on.
Did I say it
there,
wrong?
Turbo.
Harrower?
Hold on, Turbo.
It's Harrower.
You forgot. We got to encourage people. Hey, everybody. Don't forget to rate and review games, right? Isn't that what we say?
Yeah, do it.
Hey, don't forget to rate and review those games. Give them all the stars. Make all the devs happy. That's something that we often forget to do. And we like to remind ourselves and you to do the same. So you're downloading those games, you're playing the games, you're sideloading the games. Don't forget to rate and review the games.
This game has 12 levels, so give it 12 stars on the rating scale. Nice and easy. Time Flies Like an Arrow has an official release. So I've been playing that a bit. I was given a review copy. Thank you. And my Playdate's working again. Quick news note. Steve from Scenic Crowd Software, I was trying to play an early version of Shift 2, was having all kinds of problems, and I think I told you guys my Playdate kept crashing and this and that. And he said it might be dealing with too many games on there. Like it was having to boot too many things. And so I deleted at least 100 games.
Wow.
And it worked.
How much room did you have left on your Playdate at the time you started deleting?
Well, a couple of months ago, I hit the cap. Like I ran out of room. So I was deleting stuff. But this time I deleted like 800 megs, which isn't, I thought it would be way more that I deleted. I deleted most of season 1 and I deleted a ton of stuff. But
you deleted season 1 games?
Yeah, most of season 1.
Can you get them back?
Yeah. Yeah,
how do you get season 1 games back?
If you go to the games area of your settings, it
Nick,
shows
why are you laughing at me?
Games you own.
I see you laughing at. Nobody else sees you laughing at me, but I see you laughing at me.
They're still listed.
I'm a very simple man. Just tell me how I get season 1 games back if I delete them.
You you go into settings and games.
And then you reinstall.
That's it?
Yep.
That's it.
That's it.
That's
Very
easy.
easy.
They made it pretty easy. Yep.
Wow.
I was
Thanks,
laughing,
Panic.
thinking about the poor listeners who are listening.
Have to listen to me?
These are the guys that do the podcast.
Yeah. How do you use a Playdate again? I forget.
See,
No, I'm
I
sorry.
play the role of the newbie, right? That's my job here.
Well,
There you go.
I also want to thank Steve from Scenic Route Software for being the Playdate podcast tech support.
Right.
Apparently, yeah.
Tech support. Yeah. Nobody ever asks me any questions, and they always run straight to you.
Did
so
you
I'm
hear
sorry,
that
Steve.
sadness? That was sadness in Nick's voice.
Yeah.
I appreciate everything that you do for everybody. Thanks, Steve.
Steve, there is a single solitary tear rolling down Nick's face. I'm not sure if you can be the next tech support. It'll have to be Nick.
That's okay, because I don't know that I would have had the answer. So time flies like an arrow. Yes, this was a Play Jam 4 game that Ian Harrower from Ian Harrower Games has expanded to a full game, and I was provided a review copy as well.
Me too.
And all right, all three of us are flying like an arrow through time. I had a lot of fun with this game during the Play Jam, and it's very cool that Ian's taken the time to expand this into a full release, I think. So
totally. I'm very impressed. I had fun with the Play Jam release too. I got the review copy, but I have not had a chance to play it yet. My life's been pretty busy this past week or so. I got a thing coming up that I'll tell you about. Don won't let me talk about it till the end of the episode, so I'll tell you then. Foreshadowing. But in the meantime, I'm super excited that Ian's got this full release out now. That's so cool. And man, Ian, you're firing on all cylinders. You got P3 games, you got Playdate games. What else you got for us? Next week you'll have something new, I'm sure.
Definitely.
Hope so.
Yeah.
If it's Playdate related, we will talk about it right here.
Looking forward to what's next. So
or I'll shoehorn it in at the very end of the show.
Yes.
So what's next in indie inventory, Don?
Next up from Professor is Noblins. This one came out of nowhere, but it's like a toy. It's like a toy. Yeah, it's a music game, not a rhythm game, but it's a toy. So you get these little eggs and you hatch them, and a different kind of musical creature will come out, and you can mix and match your musical creatures. And it's basically like a little music mixer, because there's ways to tinker with them, change like the panning and the filters and whatnot to make them sound a little bit different.
Is this like a cool electroplankton type toy?
Maybe we had to mention electroplankton. Yes, it's got a little electroplankton to it.
Electroplankton once an episode. That's the mandate.
What was the season 1 release that's like a music app?
Boogie Loops.
Boogie Loops. That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Boogie Loops, but the dancers make noise.
Yeah, it sounds like if you're a fan of Boogie Loops, you'd like this. It looks very fun.
Yes.
Very visually appealing. Nice big characters on the screen. Yeah, it looks fun.
And the characters hatch pretty quick, and you can turn up the heater to make them hatch even faster. So anyway, pretty cool. Something different. And yeah, it's well done. Sounds good. Well made. Check out Noblins. And I'll put a link to the trailer in the show notes. Listen to the trailer. That's what really sold me on it, because I liked the music in the trailer that was made in the game. So
how much is Noblins?
Noblin, it's
$5 on sale right now for $4.50.
There you go. So give it a look.
Very nice.
Nick, can you handle this next one?
Absolutely.
In 5-year-old speak.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go through the normal pricing and all that in adult speak, but then I'll drop to 5-year-old speak. Okay. So this next game, it's not a game per se, but it's called Amigo Tracker, and it's made by a dev called Outgunned, and it's $4. Don, are you familiar with the Amiga line of computers?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't matter, I guess.
You matter.
All
Didn't
right,
ask me.
Ryan, are you familiar with a Commodore brand of computers
A what now?
from the 80s? Commodore computers?
Commodore. I've heard of it.
Okay. Well,
Don't know much
there's a
about
big
it.
history between Commodore and Atari computers, and the Amiga was kind of the final um, thing that came of all of that, despite them being competitors previously. Long story. Anyway, the Amiga is well known in computing circles for being way ahead of its time as far as sound and video and graphics were concerned. It was considered a workstation for those things back in the 80s. When such things were rarities and very, very, very expensive if you're talking computerized, because usually they'd be a specialized function. Anyway,
Back to
the
Amigo Tracker.
Amigo Tracker is a mod player. So mod is the sound format for the Amiga. And
Cool.
this Amigo Tracker can play these mod files, which I was way into in the early 90s, through an interface. So you load up the mod files on your Playdate, and then you can play through them, and you should be able to modify them as well. That's the cool thing about mod files, is that they're kind of like MIDI files, but you can mess around with them. So you can remix things and do all kinds of different cool stuff. Mods are 4-channel, so this is a 4-channel tracker. And well, I don't know if they all are, but anyway, this is a 4-channel tracker, and you can crank through it. So each portion of the song can be cranked through to find the particular spot that you want. Pretty cool. Anyway, I'm really interested in playing with this. I haven't messed with mods since the early 90s, I don't think. So I'm curious how things have advanced, probably very far since then. So this is cool.
I hope you play with it and tell us about it, because I think it's fascinating, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this thing. So I hope you come back and explain it some more.
It's a music player.
Right.
Okay.
Write us a love song for our Valentine's episode, Nick, using the
That's
Amigo
coming
Tracker.
Hey,
Uh,
I did a holiday ditty. I did a New Year's
That's
Eve
true.
ditty. Come on, man.
It's your turn.
You're up.
These
right.
things
Serenade us.
could happen. All right.
All right.
What's
Thanks,
next?
Nick. Thank you so much. Next up is Paku Paku by Sukatram. This is a one-line Pac-Man game. You just go back and forth. I think it's a port created by Kenta Cho of ABBA Games. I feel like I've seen this somewhere before, but I'm not seeing it right now in the show notes. Anyway, it's free, so check it out. Pac-Man, but there's no maze. You just go back and forth and try to eat as many pellets without getting caught. Check it out.
Can I mention another podcast?
Sure, Nick.
Is that allowed?
Yeah.
The short game just had a Playdate update, and they talked about this very game on there.
Very cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a link and are able to supply it, I'll throw it in the show notes.
Cranking away.
This is nothing against you. You had a very accurate description of this game, but when you described it, it sounded super boring. But I'm looking at this GIF right here, and it looks amazing, actually. So yeah, go check this out, especially for free. My goodness, I'm downloading right now.
It's like Pac-Man, but the maze is a straw, a drinking straw.
Again, sounded super boring. GIFs make it look a whole lot more exciting.
Well, speaking of boring, Winnie the Pooh, the video game, mini mahjong. I like this actually. You don't, instead of just mahjong with different characters, now you have Winnie the Pooh characters on it. It's kind of cute.
Huh.
This is by Nathan Korth. It uses all kinds of different, even the scoring is based on Winnie the Pooh. So I am kind of interested in this. It's kind of cool when they put beloved what is this called? General use or
Public domain.
public domain?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Public
So
domain
I guess
stuff on here.
who the heck is that? Steamboat Willie joined his ranks here
Yeah,
recently. I guess we'll be seeing a Steamboat Willie mahjong here before too long.
that'd be cool too. Yeah. Anyway, this looks really well done. So Winnie the Pooh mini mahjong out now. Name your price. Ryan, can you move it? There we go. Zanya Lasagna, crank into 24. Name your price. This is based on a bundle, the Playdate bundle. I think we might have mentioned it on the last episode. But there's a mini game. There's views of all different games that are part of the bundle. There is a hockey game, a sample of a training level from an upcoming hockey RPG game that
What?
Zanya's working on. So yeah,
Fantastic.
you can check this out to get more information on all of that stuff, which is neat. She always puts these together, which is really fun.
Gosh.
And the art is
Very
awesome.
cool.
Of course, her art
Mhm.
is always amazing. There'll be a link in the show notes for that.
How does she sleep? I
I
don't
don't think she
understand.
does. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
Next up, free is Playing with Our Lives. This one looks very odd. It's I would say go ahead and just download it. It's free to play. Download it and download the booklet. The booklet is 30 pages long. It is very, very well done. Oh, I meant to put in the Playdate squad. Next year for the Playdate Awards, we should have like best instruction manual because this would definitely be up there.
Yeah. And all Zanya's like bundle zines and all that. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good
Yeah.
suggestion, actually. I love
So
a good instruction manual.
this, I won't get too into it, but this is based on an actual drilling or digging project in Germany where protesters were trying to stop the excavator in a coal mine and the different ramifications it had on the climate there and whatnot, or the environment there. So, but it's also set up kind of like a clicker where you're constantly like earning money the more you dig. And then different events will happen, like protesters will stop you, or you'll get achievements like, oh, you made $1 billion damaging the earth, or well, I don't know. It's not like really heavy handed when you're playing the game, but it's an interesting way to tell a story through games, which we brought up several times with the Playdate. The Playdate just keeps doing this. So anyway, it's free. If you want to learn something and have fun, check out Playing with Our Lives by Florian Liesenfeld. I hope I was close. Yeah. Next up, Tomb of the Brain by Two Hand Slab.
I love that name.
Yeah, the name is great. Art looks great too. It's a puzzle game. Destroy all tiles. It's kind of like Indiana Jones, where you had to walk on the different tiles and they fall through, and he doesn't want to fall and have them crumble and die. It's some sort of puzzle game like that. I have not played this one yet, obviously, but it came out this week and looks pretty neat.
Yeah, it does look cool.
So give that one a go to. And then we have catalog update today. Shift 2 is the big release.
Boom. Mr.
Shift
Route bringing it.
One of my favorite games of 2022, of course. It's $6 from Scenic Route Software. It's got 3 game modes this time. The Calm is similar to Shift 1, where you are managing your energy supply and making matches. But this time you can level up the blocks and then level them down while you're trying to make matches, which is a really interesting gameplay. There's also wild cards you can use. And then the Frantic puts you against a timer. So you have to make matches to keep the timer building. It's very challenging, but it's fun to have a new mode there. And then Tactical, the only thing is a streak. Once you lose your streak, it's game over. So you can sit there and stare at it as long as you want, but you have to create a streak. And you do have energy, so you can fudge it a little bit to keep your streak going. But that's the one I keep going back to, the Tactical one. Sort of like this chess type of thing where you'll stare at it and say, oh, I can do this and this. Anyway, it's a lot of fun, really good. Of course, I love Shift 1, but Shift 2 just takes it up a notch.
Very cool.
And it's got scoreboards for everything. So hop on those. Highly recommend it.
Always so fleshed out. The Scenic Route Software games, they're
Yes.
just like no stone left unturned.
Yes.
Nice job.
I did get a review copy. I don't know if I said that, but anyway, thank you for that.
I did it as well. Yeah.
Cool. Samesies.
Easy Godding is the next one. This was a Play Jam game, but now it's a full catalog release by Alex May. It's similar to Doodle God, where you're mixing elements and creating new things. Over 200 elements to discover. So I think I tried this during the Play Jam and I couldn't get it to run, but now that my Playdate's going, I kind of want to check this out. Looks like a lot of fun. It says something about SpongeBob here in the GIFs on the catalog page, so I don't know what that means, but cool. It's $5. And then Diction, this was a surprise. This is a word puzzle game where you try to make as many words as you can out of a set number of letters. But it looks really well done as well. And there's a high scoreboard for this too. What do you guys think about this one? You into word puzzle games?
I'm not a big word puzzle guy, I gotta say. You know, those pesky words in me. I don't get into the what is that? Wordle?
No.
Not my jam. Nick, how about you?
I love word puzzles. I know that comes as a surprise. Yeah, I hadn't seen this one. Thanks for pointing it out, Don. I'm looking forward to giving this one a try.
I love the in-your-face graphic style too. Looking
Yeah,
at the GIFs.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's very easy to see what you're doing, despite all the activity in the background.
That one's by Dr. Gabe O'Reilly and Choosh. And then Medial, we've mentioned before. I really enjoyed it. I think we've all played it though.
What?
Oh, maybe everyone but Ryan has played it. It's by Stephen Allen. $2. Really fun puzzle game. Really well done. Thousands of levels, but it's sort of a Minesweeper game.
When did you guys talk about this?
I don't remember ever seeing this.
Oh,
on my other Playdate podcast.
Sorry. That's right. Busted.
Sudoku meets Minesweeper. I think he goes by Playdate Steven on itch, but Stephen Allen uses the same similar art style on all of his games, and they always have the same kind of level of polish and ease of use. So I guess I'm a fan, but I just don't talk about them on the show.
Yeah, now we be talking about him with your other host. Come on, Don.
Yeah,
bring it here.
Anyway, highly recommend this. $2 is a steal too. His games are a lot of fun, so check that one out.
Looks really neat. I like the Minesweeper reference. I love me some Minesweeper
on a 5x5 grid. Can't beat that.
Very not a word game.
Correct. That's true. Speaking of not word games, a chess for Playdate features strong chess engine. You can play against computer. It has game saves. It looks like I don't see multiplayer on here, but playing against computer is the hard part, right? Code and all that. So $5 is chess made by Trent.
There's got to be a pass it back and forth mode, right?
I don't know. I don't see that written here.
Come on,
it
Trent.
Actually doesn't say.
Yeah.
Anyway,
maybe in a future update.
Maybe so. That is it for our indie inventory. Thanks so much.
Boopity boop boop boop. Indie inventory. All right. Fantastic. That brings us to our yibbity boop pick of the week. And this week it's coming to us from Nicholas Baldridge.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. And for once, your boops are welcome because this game, unlike many others, is boop friendly. It's Direct Drive by DAC Vector. This was an initial catalog release, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Very first.
$15. And it has a unique art style and takes place in the 1920s. So a little background on your host, Nick. I worked in a movie theater that was built in 1928. for a long while in my teenage years, and I love Art Deco, Art Nouveau stylings, and so I was excited to see this. I also love records, and I love fixing old uh, technology and learning how it works and all that good stuff. I've had my face inside of Victrola, um, making sure that it works properly, all that kind of stuff. And I'm familiar with how 78s are made and all that good stuff that kind of goes along with this. So the idea of this game, or the concept, is that you're working in a recording studio. Oh, and I've been in a number of bands that have both paid for recording studio time, and I've been in bands that have developed our own recording studios. So I'm very familiar with a lot of that kind of nonsense that goes on later in the game. But
we get it. You've got some street cred.
I have. Well, I'm just pointing out that this game was almost tailor-made specifically to appeal to me. But anyway, the focus of this game, you're working in a recording studio. You are trying to hand crank a Victrola to play the backing track to a variety of singers. And there's 4 different singers, each with their own original tunes that they're singing. They're not singing songs from the 1920s. These are new songs that were composed for this game. And while you're cranking, you have to maintain the speed of the record. It has to maintain a very specific cadence. Depending on the song, there can be tempo changes. And you'll occasionally get requests as you're doing that cranking. Someone will pop in occasionally and say, "Hey, give me a burger," or "Give me a cigar," something like that. And you have to very quickly press A or B to give them something. That action is broken up with story sequences, which are done in the style of silent movies, sort of. And you're hitting A to progress through those kind of silent movie snippets. So there's a brief bit of animation, then kind of a card that explains the action that's happening in that past animation. And other than that, there's a mini game or 2 and an achievement system. And that's the game. So before we get into more of what I thought of this, Ryan and Don, what did you all think?
Don, why don't you take it first? I think I may have gotten a little farther than you in this game, so let's hear from you first.
I finished it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I bought this at launch because I was really looking forward to it. There's a lot that appeals to me. I love music games. I wouldn't really call this a rhythm game. This is something that somebody mentioned on Reddit that I saw this week, because it's under the rhythm genre here on Catalog. It's not so much a rhythm game that we would typically say, because you don't really have to keep rhythm. I guess you kind of do with the crank, but it is a very music game, very music focused. But I love the art. The style is, I give the style like a 10 out of 10. Like they really nail it. From the way the achievements are shown. There's a picture here which reminded me like Dick Tracy style or a noir style spotlight on it with the brick wall and whatnot, to the sort of Betty Boop style art of the characters, and the silent, when you mentioned the silent film narration or narrative, the way it's presented and the kind of the crackle on the screen and whatnot looks really, really nice. The way the achievements pop up and stuff is really cool and really fun. Progressing to the game is nice. The 4 characters the 4 singers are very diverse and different from each other. So anyway, all that appealed to me. Even the president of the recording company, I guess, was a fun character and very different. And I was always curious to see what was going to happen with him next. from time to time, and the interjections from that part of the story were uh, timed really well. Like the pacing of the game, I appreciated. You weren't like playing songs forever with a tiny little burst of narration. It was like two songs, I think, and then he came in, or something else would happen, a little bit of story, then back to music and back and forth. So it moved along pretty well. It was a little short. Like I kind of wish there was more to it because I was enjoying what it was. Um, the give me the hot dog stuff and the bourbon bottle is cool. Like I like that there's an extra element there. I would have liked to see maybe a little more to like a little more variety, or maybe something else. Maybe you're holding a button or having to do a different input, because cranking is compelling. The cranking to do the record is fun and compelling, but you're kind of doing the same thing on every song. And I feel like there's a lot they could have done with that it just doesn't dive too deep into. Like you're pretty much always cranking one direction, and sometimes you go a little faster or a little slower, but that's kind of it. Um, if it was maybe going one direction, then reversing, and then going back, or it just feels like there would have been more given time or whatever. They could have played with it a little bit more. There are some mini games. I can only think of one, that calibration mini game. I just fought it and fought it. It is a cool idea where you have to calibrate the record player, but I just fought it. I was able to skip it, thank goodness, but I could not get past it. Um, but I'm glad you could skip it. I think that was really smart so that players aren't stuck there. I really think that's a good idea. I do want to talk to you guys about scoring when we get there, but Ryan, what were your thoughts?
Pretty much identical to yours. I too thought the art style was really fantastic. It's this like old 1920s rubber hose animation type look, which suits the period perfectly. Like the art style is timed or is in a correct period for the game. So that's really great. It's also really attractive. Like everything you said, diverse characters, interesting concept. Cool that they recorded specific music for this. Like I was reading the Uncranked issue number 1 article about this that interviews one of the developers, and he was talking about how they spent like 4 years developing this, and he's got 4 unique singers. He is involved in musical groups, and so he either knew these folks or found them locally and hired them to be a part of this. One of them is even, if I'm understanding this correctly, his offspring. So that was pretty neat
Oh,
to hear too.
mhm.
The child star that's no longer a child is his offspring. So that was a fun thing to find out. But as you alluded to, the gameplay for me got super repetitive. It was a lot of cranking and cranking and cranking and cranking. And by the end, I kind of wanted to be done. I hate to say that because there's so many really admirable things about this game. Um, from the sound design to the visuals. Don, I think you hit the nail on the head that there's just a number of differences that could have been explored, alternate directions of crank, or like so before I started playing this game, Don alluded to a mechanic in the game that just really hung him up. And that's why I assumed that you had not completed it yet, Don, is because you mentioned, oh yeah, I've got this game already, and I couldn't make it past this one thing that comes up pretty quickly. Once I hit that calibration mode, the
Mhm.
accelerometer thing, um, it really stopped me in my tracks too. And I wish that would work like I thought it would. Like
Right.
I tried to make it work in a number of different ways. Like at first I thought, okay, if I tilt the Playdate downward, then those bars will roll downward, but then they didn't really. And so I'm like, well, maybe it's like a bubble. So if I tilt it downward, then the bubble will rise upward. And then that didn't really work either. It just did not seem very responsive to me, that whole accelerometer leveling thing that you had to do. Cool concept. I wish it worked better. And then likewise with the rotating, no, I shouldn't say likewise. With the rotating, I do wish there were differences there. It would tell you that it would speed up or that there would be a wild changes of pace, but then I did not feel like there was a wild change of pace like they told me there was going to be, like on that Cab Calloway character type. They said, "Oh, he likes to improvise," and I thought that the narrative was really well done and smart and a great way to incorporate or explain why game mechanics are happening. But then the game mechanics didn't always do what the narration was saying. Like in that speed up and slow down instance, it just seemed like it was doing the same thing as all the others to me. So everything outside of gameplay for me was top of the charts. Gameplay kind of suffered in my book. But Nick, this was your game, so let's hear from you. What did you think?
Yeah. So specifically the tempo changes that they talked about. The white kind of box is where you want the needle to reside throughout your gameplay session. If you're going a little fast, there's a little indicator inside that box that'll tell you it'll start shifting one way or the other if you're going a little too fast or too slow. So within that, there's a sweet spot right in the center. For the tempo changes, what happens is that white box will start shifting way further back and then way further up. Now they all do it to some extent, but that particular character had some pretty large swings in a couple of songs. Not all four of them. Each character I think has 4 unique songs. Maybe it's 3. I think I'm saying the wrong thing. It's probably 3.
I think 3.
But at any rate, that's the basic gameplay, is just trying to keep the needle fixated right in the center. And you have to spin up. It's a Victrola, which is that's one of my conceptual things that doesn't quite match reality. Is that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to have something fixed to real-time cranking of a Victrola. You would crank it up and then you would let it go and it would operate at a fixed speed. You wouldn't have like a human providing that cranking motion.
That's not fun.
Seems
though.
a little, I mean, it's not fun. That's a good point. But also I was like, huh? This doesn't make a lot of sense. The other thing that left me scratching my head a bit was the what is it, the manager or whoever who's asking for liquor and cigars and stuff while the recording is happening.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are paying the money to have the recording made. So they're probably not going to interject while the recording's happening.
But they're the big wigs. They don't care what's going on. They want their bourbon and they want their hot dogs.
Yeah, I mean,
too logical, Nick.
Again, just in my experience there.
So just as a brief aside, everybody's getting a little glimpse of what it looks like to create an issue of Coin Op Carnival with Nick Baldridge. Something will come in. It's not quite reality. There's a lot of discussion. Things need to happen a very particular way.
This is true. Yeah, anyway, I just thought that was kind of funny. But Don, you had mentioned the scoring, or Ryan, one of you did. And the scoring is kind of interesting. It's a little more nuanced than it seems at first. Basically, if you're in that white box, you get a certain amount of score just for being there. If you are right in the center, you get approximately 100 points every second-ish, or 2 seconds, something like that. and it'll give you a verbal perfect on the screen, or great if you're almost there. It's very DDR style, Dance Dance Revolution style, for how it describes your timings. There's also bonus points that are awarded based on how quickly you respond to the manager's requests for cigars and stuff. So if they say, give me a burger, and you're a couple seconds late on hitting the button, you're not going to get as much score as you would if you did it right away. So all that's tallied at the end of the song too. It'll show you the breakdown of your points while you're playing, and then the breakdown of the points for items that you've returned correctly. And that's pretty much all there is to it on the scoring front.
I have a question for you. Did you ever get 3 stars?
I was going to say that too.
All of mine were 3 stars.
Shut up, Nick.
I am totally serious. Even the calibration. But the calibration did take me several tries. The first song, I wasn't quite clear on where the needle needed to reside, so I got 2 stars the first time I tried it. Everything else was 3 all the way down. Then I went back and did that one again.
Brian pulled his earbuds out, and he's just pacing around the room.
Did I mention this is my kind of game? This is like made for me. It's true. So I was wondering, that was something I was curious about, is if you all had any trouble with the scoring or with the
I maybe got 3 stars once, but I definitely didn't get it more than once.
I never got it once, and I had a song where it was telling me perfect every time, and I was slinging those dogs, I was tossing that bourbon, I was doing everything I needed to do, and I'm like, all right, if I'm ever gonna get it, this is gonna be it. 2-starred me. So what do you have to do to get 3 stars? I mean, I thought perfect was good enough.
Maybe there's 2 aspects to perfect, in that you also
one is not as perfect.
One is not as perfect.
I have no 3 stars.
Maybe you can really no 3 stars.
I have 1 star, and all the rest are 2s.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Don, I gotta come over
here in the human corner. Nick, explain how this happens, please.
All right, maybe this is a theory because I can't replicate it. Maybe if your needle is in the center, but you're turning a little quickly, which I don't see how that would even occur, but I guess that's possible. I don't know.
Whatever.
I would have to watch you play. So the calibration, I do want to talk about that, because that is kind of the big sticking point of this game that seems to trip up not just Don, not just Ryan, but absolutely everybody, including me. So the deal with it is it uses the accelerometer, and you basically it is sort of like a bubble level that is continuously rolling, as if it's a bubble level that extends to infinity. And so you have to maneuver the Playdate in some weird way. It doesn't want to be level. It wants to be off kilter at some odd angle, which is predetermined when you load up the calibration thing. Once you find that very, very small sweet spot, then it wants you to crank, but it wants you to crank in a very controlled way. You can't crank too fast, you can't crank too slow, and you have to maintain that bubble level in that very same spot the entire time that you're doing it. So there's a couple tricks which I developed, and I will pass on to you all. They're very difficult. It is not an easy minigame. But the first, I think Dino in the Discord mentioned that he did the same thing, which is flip up the crank, have it ready, and ignore the crank. And then level the thing, however weird way it wants you to do it, and then crank. And you should be good. If you're pretty close, that's when you get 1 or 2 stars in the calibration. If you're dead center and you get it right in the center to get that calibration, the there's 5 dots to measure the calibration. If you get the calibration up to 5 dots, it's over. The faster you do it, the better, the more stars. So that's technique 1. The other technique I'll give you is every time that I touched the crank, it affected the level in some way. No matter how still I kept my hand, I was putting some kind of pressure on the Playdate, and so it would jump off kilter. The fix that I found for that was to not only keep my hand steady, vice grips, yes. I took the Playdate out of any case and just rested it directly on my hand. And then I cranked the crank with just my thumb and forefinger. It was very difficult.
Rather than the typical meat hook grip that you have
Yeah,
on the crank?
Yeah, I just have a drill hooked up to it and just spin it that way.
I was thinking of setting on a table with just the crank hanging over the edge.
I tried that.
I tried that too.
Yep. And your explanation of the level trying to shoot for not necessarily level makes a lot of sense, because I was thinking, well, we're shooting for level, right? So like, why isn't this working? I did not understand until you explained it right now.
But in the lore of the game, it's on some imbalanced surface. So I think that's the idea.
Okay.
Yeah. How many times?
I was going to say, I think old Gumption McGee tells you too that you the hint to level first, then crank. I mean, they basically tell you that before you go into that mini game. So
that's right.
That's there as well. But even then, boy, howdy, was I having a rough go with that one.
It's tough. How many times did you all replay that calibration game after you finish the game and it unlocks the little mini games?
0. Is there something new?
No, I thought there might be, but that was not the case. So, it's once I got the hang of it, I enjoyed the challenge of it, but it's not something that I would return to frequently. I found it was too challenging to be a fun or relaxing, component of this game, where it's placed within the story, within the narrative. It feels like it's breaking up the song sequences, but I felt like it was a real challenge dropped right in the center there. So, as you both mentioned, you can skip any challenge. That includes any song if you're having particular difficulty with it, just by pressing the right arrow 3 times. I thought that was clever. I don't know. I didn't try that. Does it give you some kind of on-screen indicator that you're doing that?
Yeah, it does. There's like 3 little dots or 3 little triangles down at the bottom, and they start filling up each time you click that direction. And I never clicked it the 3rd time. I wanted to do each level and ended up doing every level and completing it. Speaking of completing the game, that's another thing I agree with Don about, is that it happened surprisingly fast. I'm so torn about this, because on one hand, I'm like, okay, a $15 price tag for a Playdate game. It might be the most expensive Playdate game we've seen on catalog. And so I was expecting more depth for that price. So the gamer side of me is like, that sounds a little steep. But then the creator side of me is like, well, there's a big team to put this together. There was a ton of work that went into this. Boy, howdy, I'm sure hoping that Dax Vector or whoever is sharing the wealth with all these singers and artists and co-programmers and everyone else. I hope that's what's happening with this price tag, but who knows? Anyhow, for the price, I was expecting more depth. I guess I'll leave it at that. But I will say that at the end of the game, I did enjoy the outcome, I guess, in a couple on a couple levels. One, the storyline, and I'm trying to speak to this without giving away spoilers. Uh, but one, the storyline, and two, the you're given a reward of sorts. And I thought that was clever and neat. Um, so I will say that for it.
I think the price tag, I don't think it's that high compared to video games. I mean, this is like a steak. You're getting super high quality. This is probably the highest quality Playdate game because you're getting original compositions sung by human beings with, I mean, I can't, there's very few other games like that. I think uh Dungeons and Doggos has an original song, but there's very few. I don't know, like it pulled out all the stops. $15 isn't that much for a video game, really. Um, and I don't like assigning X hours based on X value because I mean, I've played thousands of hours of Fortnite and it's free, whereas I can enjoy God of War for 8 hours and it's $70 or something. But anyway, I mean, that's a whole
I
other
don't
thing.
know if I agree with that personally. If I'm gonna equate it to comic books for a minute. If I buy a comic book and I pay $10 and I'm done reading it in 10 minutes, but I buy a graphic novel for $10 and it takes me a couple hours to finish, I feel like I've got my money's worth out of the graphic novel. And I feel sort of similarly here. I feel like there is a timing component that I will equate with value and money. So I'm not sure I agree with that personally, but I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I think I have a different opinion than that.
I don't know. $15 isn't that much.
So
And people should
In
get
the
paid. People should get paid, you know, there's value for creating things, like you said. Is $10 a lot for a comic book?
I guess it depends on how long it takes me to read it.
I I could read a comic book in less than 5 minutes, but that's not how the creator wanted me to consume it, probably. Right? I could read a Ryan Claytor book in less than 5 minutes, probably, but you don't want me to consume your art in that way.
I have a feeling you're not reading Coin Op Carnival in 10 minutes. I have a
I'm
feeling
just
you could
saying
read
you
A
could read it
Hunter's
very
Tale in 10
quickly.
minutes, but that's why Coin Op Carnival is twice as much money as A Hunter's Tale.
But it's the experience from top to bottom. Coin Op Carnival. You want to enjoy the art. You want to look at the details. You want to appreciate the entire package, but experience the entire package, not just the word bubbles, not just the captions. In this, you're not just experiencing uh, the 1.5 minute songs. You're getting the whole package.
I understand that. You're getting the interactivity of it, like you're taking part in this narrative, and that's cool. And that's another aspect of this game that I agree with you. I think is really great. But it's a short game. And in the grand scheme of catalog pricing, I think this is at the top. I don't know of another game that's more than $15 on catalog.
Not
You
more
can
than
correct me if
15.
I'm wrong.
No, there's some that are 15, but not more than.
Okay. So I don't know. I guess I was expecting a little more depth for the price.
I, I think it's just the mobile game market has completely skewed perception of game value now because so many games are $1 because they have to be to compete now. Whereas if we were NES kids, $15 game would be like, oh my God, I gotta buy it right now.
Right.
Because like a Back to the Future on NES would be $50.
Yeah.
Is this a better game than that? Yes, it is. And it's a fourth the price.
yeah, or less.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
some of the
Less with inflation taken into account.
some of the NES
Yeah, no
games
joke.
were almost $100.
Yeah,
Um,
the N64 games were legitimately $90 or whatever.
that's pre-inflation calculation, but
Yeah.
um, so I haven't weighed in on this debate. I've found it very interesting to hear both of your opinions. I fall uh, to put all my cards on the table. I fall much closer to Don's side of the argument than I do to Ryan's, which I'm very surprised, Ryan, that you're taking this particular tack about the pricing, since you yourself are a creator.
Our
And that's
creator.
what
Yeah.
that's what Don was getting at with comparing your work to this. He wasn't making a direct comparison like, oh, your work is of no value or anything. And that's not what he was saying. What he's I'm not going to pretend to say that I know what Don was saying, but I will say that I find that if I can equate $15 worth of enjoyment to an experience like this game, and this game brought me a lot of enjoyment despite its length, because I enjoyed the atmosphere, I enjoyed the artwork, I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the coding that made it possible. So reading a bit of the interviews of the making of, there was talk of how the music engine worked, which I found pretty interesting because that has to operate very quickly. Not something that the Playdate is great at, while it's also doing a ton of graphical work, which the animations are very limited, um, intentionally, to various portions of the screen because the record animation is running at all times. So the Playdate is absorbed doing that kind of stuff, but when it has to change the tempo of the song that's playing underneath and react in real time to your work as you're cranking, it's an impressive coding feat. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the original compositions, and having hired composers and worked with musicians, both as a musician myself and in making games, I can say that that is not an inexpensive thing to do. So this is a very ambitious game from a design standpoint. Just looking at the costs that would have made up the creation of this game. Couple that with the fact that this was an original catalog release, and no one really knew what the pricing should be for those original catalog releases. Panic has done a bit of an experiment, making the prices whole dollars. There's no $14.99 on this. It's $15 even. And so you don't have that little bit of mental gymnastics that you go through when thinking about value for your money when you buy something that is priced at $14.99 or $49.99 or $19.99 or whatever it is. I appreciate that. And that extra penny isn't going in the creator's pocket. It's part of what's being paid to Panic, and you can look at that whole thing and do some calculations and realize that the creation of games on the Playdate, for the money that is charged for them, is crazy. So I've mentioned this in our Discord, but as someone who would love to make a game for the Playdate, I have to make it make financial sense. And at $2 or $3, that's tough. That's tough. Like if I were to do something where I had original compositions here, if I hired a musician or even a pianist to compose a song, it would take a lot of sales to get that money back, and that's one piece of music. So anyway, all that to say, I think $15 is actually a pretty great value, and I would like to see the conversation at some point for Playdate games turn from this is too expensive to this was very enjoyable, and I feel it was worth the money, whatever the price was.
I don't
without
see that ever happening. Oh, sorry.
So
no,
I want to
not.
chime in here for just a second, because I feel like words are getting put into my mouth a little bit. I did not say the game was too expensive. I said the game felt shallow for how it was priced compared to other games. So I'm not saying it was not good or did not have good aspects to it. It wasn't a me game, and maybe that's partially informing
Yeah,
my thoughts here. But um, for the amount of time that I invested into completing the game versus the price versus other games, I mean, there's at some point you have to compare. And
sure.
if we're doing some comparisons, my honest opinion is the the balance was a little skewed on this game, if I'm being honest. I'm not saying that it didn't take work to do the artwork or to compose the music or to program the game or that any of that wasn't ambitious. I'm not saying any of that. That's all totally valid. But looking at catalog, looking at the wealth of games we have in front of us and some of the really incredibly deep games and lengthy games we have, at some point you have to compare what you're pulling out of your pocket to bring back in. And again, I think I said it already. I'm repeating myself at this point, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean
I'm
it's a market comparison.
yeah.
The example that I use in most media is how much is a movie ticket? 12, $14. You get a couple hours, hour and a half maybe of enjoyment. Is it commensurate with the amount of money that you're spending on this? Well, probably not. You get maybe 45 minutes in the main story, and then I went through and did all the achievements, which required going back in and doing certain things. And one of them took me a really long time to figure out. But so I wound up spending quite a bit of time doing that kind of post game work, and I was able to get some more enjoyment out of the game for the purchase price. But it's I've mentioned this term many times. It's like a race to the bottom. So initial games came out, like Bloom was $10, right? And then additional games came out on itch and they were free or $1, and then that was the expectation. So the level's set there, catalog comes out, it's a chance to reset. Direct Drive, one of the launch titles, $15. So the price on catalog is typically, games that make it to catalog are a little higher than the average price of itch games. But it's that value comparison is not a one-to-one, I don't think, because of that race to the bottom.
Yeah, I feel like we could continue talking about this ad nauseum because not only are catalog games more expensive, a little bit, not much, but a little
Not much.
bit, partially because Panic takes more than Itch does. So you've got to take that into account too. So there's a lot of factors going in here. If this was, Nick, if this is your Mole Mania, then I think this is easily worth $15. But if folks are listening and they're like, I align with Nick, this is a game for you. Or if they're like, I align with Ryan's picks in general, then maybe think twice about this particular purchase. I just don't want to have an unfettered, uh, uh, always cheering every single game. I want to have hopefully a balanced opinion. And we talked a lot about a lot of great things happening with this game. But at the end of the day, the gameplay fell short for me. And to me, that's kind of equivalent to getting a comic book and the art looks great, the coloring, the inking, all the mechanics are great, but the story falls flat. And a bad story can't carry a pretty comic. And that's kind of the way I'm feeling with this game, is that the gameplay was kind of lackluster for me when I got to the end and I was like, okay, I've cranked my last crank, finally. I was not interested in going back and playing all those additional games because I felt like I'd played it to death. Again, if this is your type of game and you're going back in there and doing all that stuff, I can totally see the value. And
Yeah,
now Don's
okay.
rubbing his brow.
Well, I feel like we're repeating ourselves. Final
Yeah,
thoughts. It's amazing how fast this game boots. You hit A on the dashboard and you're in the game right away. Like I've never seen a game boot this fast. It's just immediately you're in the game. And also if you just keep hitting A while you're grabbing hot dogs or whatever, he'll always say, great, 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 great. Even if you're grabbing the wrong thing. Like one of my strategies was just hitting A every single time. And he's always like,
Really?
great, great, perfect, whatever. And then at the end of the game, I got minus 600 points. And I was like, oh, well, that's a bug. Like,
Sounds pretty great.
yeah. I don't know how many were correct and how many weren't because
Huh.
I thought I was just like nailing all of them. And then one final last thing. All the singers were cool. Some of the lyrics, not so cool. Like the PSA song, PSA, it's my day. What do you got to say? It's a PSA. I could not get behind that one, but singers are cool. Yeah. If this looks like a game for you, buy it. If you're even on the fence, I would say maybe don't. Watch a video or something. Ryan summed it up there. But this is not a game for everybody. That's easy to say. But so is every game we talk about.
Not every game is for everybody.
Yep.
So, yeah. Yeah. Anyway,
Or
well, thanks.
every game is not for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe every game is for somebody.
Sure, that's a better way of looking. Glass half full. I like that.
Real quick, let's mention a little bit of feedback. Fev says TLDR, great music and give me burger. And then Dino says the original music is the star of the show. Sounds great through headphones. I didn't try headphones actually.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you guys did.
I did.
I should.
It's a lot cleaner of an experience.
Cool. I really liked the Candy Bear song. I'd be down to check that one out with the it sounded like they had fun recording it. Should throw that one on. He says I enjoyed the calibration minigame. It would be great to see other theme challenges dotted throughout the story. I would agree. If there's like one minigame per chapter, that would have been a really fun way to break it up.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think there's a lot of thematic things you could do in there too. Like even you're making the burgers or you're whatever. Anyway. Aside from the calibration detour, the gameplay does risk becoming repetitive and the story is over too soon. It feels like there's an opportunity to venture outside of the recording studio into the music industry to broaden the experience. It mentions on the catalog page future updates. He's right. That does sound right for there's so much you could do with this era and music. Like there's nothing close to this. You have this type of music in Cuphead and that's it. That's the extent of all of this.
Yeah, and just to follow that up a little bit, to mention another uncranked number one scoop, Zanya asked, what's next for Direct Drive and DAC Vector? He says, there's a lot in the pipeline, some specific updates that we want to make for Direct Drive that I cannot talk about yet, but hopefully soon. What I can say is that the soundtrack, which is currently available to buy on Bandcamp, so Don, if you like that song, you can get it, will soon be available as a vinyl release. Nick.
Wow.
No official release date yet, but it's coming soon. So I guess watch this space. All right. So if you're a fan of Direct Drive, there's more Direct Drive stuff being teased there and coming up soonish.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for thinking to read that. That's cool to get an update.
Yeah. Right on. Well, thanks for picking this, Nick. It was a fun playthrough. I think I've had my eye on this like every single person with a Playdate, but I'd never given it a try. So I'm glad I know some more about it now. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for giving it a shot.
Ryan, you're up next, I think.
Okay. So next week we are going to be playing Medial by, who is that by?
Stephen Allen. Yeah.
Stephen Allen. I'm pulling a Nick this time. I haven't tried this game, but it looks real fun. It got me with Minesweeper. So here we go. Let's give it a whirl, guys.
Heck yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, his games are fun. You'll like it.
Nice.
Cool. And it's $2 on catalog, so hop in there. All right.
Okay,
Thank you guys.
so hey, here's the Playdate unrelated announcement. If there's any listeners in Michigan or surrounding states, I would urge you to get over to Michigan State University this weekend. That's February 2nd and 3rd, 2024, because I'm the director of a fabulous event over there called the Michigan State University Comics Forum. It's headlined by a couple of keynote speakers, and we've got a couple of great ones this time. Our creator keynote speaker is Keith Knight. He is an absolute comics veteran, been making comics for decades, and most recently, he was the co-creator, writer, inspiration for Hulu's series called Woke. So that's been going for a couple seasons. And then our scholar keynote speaker is Rebecca Wanzo, whose most recent book from New York University Press is called The Content of Our Caricature, about portrayals of African Americans in comics. And so she'll be speaking on Saturday. Keith will be speaking on Friday. But we've also got a bunch of artists, dozens of artists behind the table of their own work throughout the day on Saturday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., as well as a bunch of academic panel discussions happening throughout the day as well. And every single event associated with the MSU Comics Forum is free and open to the public, so you don't have to be a student or a faculty member or associated with campus in any way, shape, or form. Just come on out to the MSU main library. We'll have signs in the building directing you to where to go. So on the off chance you're close enough to visit, come on out. You might even see me in a monkey suit. I try to look nice that day. So maybe I'll see you then.
Well, thanks, Ryan. I wish I lived closer. That does sound fun.
Yeah,
I'm looking up.
same.
I'm looking at his art right now. This would be really cool.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. And so he'll be delivering the keynote address on Friday night, and then he'll be behind an artist alley table throughout the day on Saturday.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for letting me talk non-Playdate stuff for a minute.
Well, if you want to hear more non-Playdate stuff, you can visit the Boop channel on our Discord.
Don hasn't deleted it yet. It's still there.
No, I'm not going to delete it.
In fact, he made a contribution recently in a circular file.
Well, Ryan made a contribution to me. Yeah, you can check us out on playdatepodcast.com, and all of our socials and whatnot are in the show notes. So we'll be back with, what'd you call it? Medial. I don't know why I call it I don't even know what I called it, but medial. Thank you.
Yeah.
Medial.
Yeah, we'll call it something different next week, I'm sure. In the meantime, have fun with it. We'll be back next time to talk about it on episode number 50, in which we will be doing the same thing we do every week.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.